Welcome to welcome. Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Kimberlyn Coaching, where we help women recover from and flourish after stress and trauma. So glad to be with you here today. So I was in Al-Anon because I was married to an alcoholic for 13 years. And as I tried to work the Al-Anon program, and they would say, you didn't, about his alcoholism, you can't control it, you didn't cause it, you you didn't cause it, you can't control it, you can't cure it. But they say, but you don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. And I was like, how does this work? I can't get this. I have to accept this, but I don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. I did start to learn what that meant, and that's one of the things we're going to talk today. We are moving on in our study of acceptance. We've been on this for many weeks, and we're talking about it because it helps us reduce our stress. Hang on a minute. Let me share my screen with you. So you've seen this screen before. We've got three parts of reducing stress. One is, how do we regulate our bodies in the moment when we get stressed out, when we get triggered, when it hits us? We learned how to do that with some breathing exercises, with some different kinds of body movement. If you've missed the previous videos on this, you can go to my website, kimberlyncoaching.com, go to the Springboard tab, and all of the videos are there. I've done probably about, I think it's over 50 now, and we've done them on all kind of things. And anyway, so these are on there. So we learned about regulating our bodies in the moment. Then we talked about how do we eliminate the stressful situations that we can. We shouldn't eliminate all of them. Some stress is not bad, but if it's a daily chronic stress, we know that that turns into trauma for our bodies. Then the third way is the most important way: decrease our reaction to stress. So many times it's not the situation, it's how we react to the situation. So that's what we've been talking about these last weeks. And we've been talking about the core disciplines. These are concepts that if you embody them in your life, they will make you live more powerfully, they will make you live more peacefully and less stress, which is what we're talking about. We've already talked about awareness. Now we've been on acceptance for many weeks. Today, we're going to talk about accepting others. As we talk about this, accepting others, we're going to talk about expectations, detachment, that idea that I don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. We're going to talk about acceptance in a marriage, and then we're going to have a summary. So this is the way it works out usually. We have expectations. We think that people should do things the right way. They should treat us the right way. This right way is usually my way. I expect you to meet my expectations. And one of the things they say in Al-Anon is that expectations are premeditated resentments. Did you get that? Let me say that again. Expectations are premeditated resentments. So I expect you to do something my way. You don't do it. I get upset. We judge them. We think they're not doing this the right way. They're supposed to do this the other way. They're supposed to do this my way. We get mad. We get upset. We tell ourselves that we should be able to control them, that we should be able to do something differently. So then we try to manipulate. We try to, we preach. We control all the different things that we try. We try to beseech and entreat and explain to try to get the people around us to do the things we want them to do. We cause ourselves irritation, we cause them irritation, and we ourselves behave in problematic ways. If you've ever been in Al-Anon, and I encourage you to do that. If you are married or married to or have any friends or any loved ones who are addicted, Al-Anon is a wonderful support group, and you can learn a lot of great, powerful concepts there. So we end up being the ones acting in the sometimes more problematic than the other person. Here's the deal. We cannot control other people. We can't control how they act, how they react, or how they treat us. And we are in control of our reactions to them. Now, This can seem really hard, really bad. It is actually very good because you and we know what it's like. I mean, I've tried to control people for years and years and years, beating my head against the window, against the door, making myself crazy, making myself totally stressed out. Once we learn that we're responsible for our own feelings, behaviors, thoughts, our reactions, then we can start to move on because we can change our reactions. We can change our thoughts and our behaviors. Now, one of the things that is helpful is detachment. We're just going to talk a little bit about detachment here. We may someday do a whole lesson on it. You can learn about this in Al-Anon if you want more personal help on this. Obviously, I would love to talk with you about it. Always at the bottom of the show notes, I have a link where you can schedule a free coaching session with me to see how we would respond to each other if you were thinking about hiring me as a coach. But detachment, we step back, we don't quit loving them, we let people experience their consequences without trying to rescue them. We stop making our own lives dependent on their lives. When I first joined Al-Anon, they would say, "How are you doing today?" I would say, "Oh, good. He's not drinking," or "Oh, bad. He's drinking." They would say, "No, we asked you how you are doing." I was like, "I just told you." And I had my happiness, my life so bound up in how he was doing that it was making me totally crazy. Now, I have to admit to you that I never really learned how to be detached well from him while we were living together. For me, I ended up having to leave. Some people actually do learn how to do it and are able to stay in a marriage that is like that. I could not. But either way, if you learn detachment, then it will help you make decisions about the best way in your life. So this detachment helps with addiction, helps with difficult behaviors. If you've got children that are having problems, maybe you need to detach. Now, here's some practical ways that detaching looks. So when you detach, you decide you are not going to suffer because of the actions or reactions of other people. You decide that you're not going to allow yourself to be used or abused by others in the interest of another's recovery. Sometimes they may say, "You need to do this and this so I can recover." They may blame it on, "You're the reason I'm drinking. You're the reason I'm doing this." In detachment, we realize that's their stuff. It's not our stuff. In detachment, we decide not to do for others what they can do for themselves. Many of us that are codependent, we tend to be fixers. We're caretakers. We want to help people. We want to solve their problems, and we end up actually it feels like disrespect to them when we try to do everything for them instead of accepting that they are old enough to do these things for themselves and letting them do them or not do them. Along with that is the idea that I'm not going to manipulate situations so other people will eat, so they'll go to bed, they'll get up, pay their bills, not drink, make their doctor's appointment, get to their doctor's appointment. If I don't make that appointment, they're never going to go. Well, if you're detached, you allow them to make their own decisions and suffer those consequences. So we also make a decision we're not going to cover up for another person's mistakes or misdeeds. So if someone you know is wanting you to call my boss and tell them I'm sick, and you know they're home with a hangover, then you're not going to make those kind of phone calls. You're not going to cover up anymore. All of these things, when we are doing these are causing us so much internal stress because this is not the way that it breaks our values and it keeps us from living a life of peace. So when we're detached, we're not going to create a crisis, but we're not going to prevent one if that is a natural course of affairs. Now, here's that idea of don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. How does this work? And what is unacceptable behavior? So you get to decide what unacceptable behavior is. That's whatever is unacceptable to you. Now, there's a difference in setting a boundary and giving an ultimatum. One of the things they told us in Al-Anon is do not make a threat that you are not willing to keep, because then they won't believe you anymore. And I did this. I made too many threats and I didn't keep them. And so my ex-husband didn't believe me. And when it came time that I was done, he still could not fathom that we were, because he was like, to him, it was just the same old thing of me threatening and not doing it. And for me, it actually was the end. So we're not talking about making threats here. This is what they taught me in Al-Anon. Today's an Al-Anon day, I guess. But they taught me that I have the right to ask for what I need and what I want. The other person then has the right to decide if they want to give me that. They can decide no, or they can decide yes. And then I have the right to decide how I am going to react to that. So if I say, I need you to stop drinking, they may say, okay, I will. And then everything's good. If they say, okay, I'm not, then you have to decide, can I live with this or can I not? But we have the right to ask. They have the right to say yes or no, and then we have the right to decide where to go from there. So accepting in this case means I'm accepting the reality that they are the way they are. And they are not going to change unless they choose to change. And I can't force them to change. So I ask for what I want. I ask for the acceptable behavior. If they continue to do the unacceptable behavior, then I decide if I can live with it or not. And I don't have to live with it, but I may have to leave the relationship in order to stop that. So that's not a great answer to that, is it? But that's the way it works. You don't have to accept it, but you may have to leave the relationship or change the way the relationship works. If it's not a marriage, if it's your job relationship, if it's friendships, you may change the way it works so that you don't have to be around the unacceptable behavior any more than you have to. Also, sometimes you can't maybe leave immediately. If it's a job, maybe you have to have that job right now to get your bills paid, but maybe you are going to start in the background, getting your resume fixed up, start looking for another job. So there are things that you can do, but part of the problem of all this is when we feel stuck. I'm stuck in this. This is miserable. This is making me crazy. And we feel like we don't have any options. You do have options. You just have to look at them and decide on each one, which one is actually one that you can work with. Now let's talk about a marriage. In a normal marriage, even in a good marriage, when you are married to someone who loves you and you love them, there are still things that make you irritated with the other person. There are still things that you have to accept. When you embody this idea of acceptance, I accept you as you are, this helps keep your relationship healthy. And one of the things that makes it easier to accept is to notice the good things. And when you notice the good things, this is that nice little circle. When I notice the good things, then I can accept the bad things better. When I accept everything, then I notice and I appreciate the good things better. It's a circle up or a circle down. If you accept each other, this leads you toward greater intimacy and care for each other. And if you feel accepted, you both feel accepted, you're more willing to listen to each other, to hear each other's points of view and hear your perspective and your suggestions, and you're willing to listen. If you feel like the other person is constantly being critical and judgmental to you, you're not going to listen to what they have to say. So acceptance strengthens your marriage. And one of the things here is sometimes you can do simple things that help things, like, the age old thing of, do you squeeze the toothpaste in the middle? Do you squeeze it at the end? And people fight over this. Just get 2 different tubes of toothpaste, right? There are sometimes simple answers. You don't even have to worry about accepting. But other things that are bigger, you work, you compromise, you accept. And it also strengthens your relationship and makes it easier for you and your partner to co-parent. So here's a summary. These are a list of statements that I think really sum up well this idea of accepting others. So there's always going to be times that other people treat me unfairly. And even though I want them to treat me fairly, they don't have to do so. And that's just life. When I accept that that's the way it is, then I don't get so upset when they don't. I can make choices. Do I want to be around this person or not? Number two, everyone has a reason for acting the way they do, even if I don't approve of their behavior. Many times, if we get to know the person that we're having a beef with, we find out things about them that make us understand, and we actually sometimes end up being best of friends when we take the trouble to get to know each other. Number three, it is not my job to control other people. Now, when I first found that out, it was kind of kind of hit me because I thought it was, but then it ended up being a freedom because it was a big responsibility to make sure everyone was doing the right thing, and they were not. It's like herding cats or ducklings. It was stressful. Once I realized I can't control anyone but myself, that eliminated a lot of stress. And that goes along with number four. It's no one else's job to meet my needs. I am responsible for taking care of myself. And this is a good thing because it gives me my power back. If I am responsible for my happiness, I can choose to be happy. If I am responsible for being happy and feeling loved, whatever, then that puts the power on me. I'm not putting the power on someone else and depending on that other person and then getting mad when they don't do what I want them to do. Number five, their behavior usually has nothing to do with us. Most of the time, it has something to do with them and what's going on in their life. Number six, one bad behavior does not define them, and it also does not define us. We all make mistakes and we all do things that later we regret. And we would hate to have our whole life defined by this one thing we've done in our life. And let's don't do that to them either. Let's don't decide if they do this one thing to hurt us that they're always that makes them a bad, unworthy person. Now, if it's a constant thing, obviously we're gonna look at that. But if it's just one or two and there are situations, then we can let those go. We can accept that. And again, number seven, they may have just been having a bad day. Someone ignores you when they walk by you in the hallway. Maybe they were just concentrating so much. They were working on something else. They didn't see you. So we can give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, sometimes we can give people the benefit of the doubt too long, but for the most part, most people, we can let them have that grace. 10, all people are multifaceted. So having a flaw in one area does not mean we're flawed in all areas. Just because we make a mistake in one area doesn't mean we're also so messed up in others. We are just, we're complex. We're complex, we're complicated. And so it's not, life is hard, and let's give us each other grace. Another grace: when all people make mistakes, one poor choice, behavior, or failure does not mean a person is incapable or unworthy. 12, acceptance creates a healthier, happier, and more positive environment for the whole family. And number 13, raising children in this kind of accepting environment is good for their development and can help them thrive. So, accepting others. Accept others, accept yourself. You don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. And if this still seems hard to conceive of, yet you feel like you need some help in this, use that link and schedule yourself a free coaching session. Let's talk about it and see if I can help you out. Meanwhile, I hope you have a great week. I hope you have less stress, less reaction to the situations around you. Have a great week. Bye-bye.